This is Starry Night painted on a button. And this is Starry Night painted with buttons. So I've got 8,000 buttons, big buttons, small buttons, wooden buttons, patterned buttons, and buttons that look like butterflies. My goal is to create Starry Night out of buttons.
Oh, cool.
And I have no idea how I'm going to attach them.
Hot glue makes my dreams come true.
So hot glue gun is either gonna be really good or a really bad idea. I'm not sure which. So I'm trying to make a giant painting with buttons, and I've wanted to try this for a while and had even started collecting some buttons about a year ago, but didn't really have a clear picture of what I was trying to create. But I've found my inspiration, Starry Night. This feels like the perfect painting for a project like this. It's got a lot of variety of different brush strokes and swirls and things that will look really interesting with buttons. It's also abstract enough that it should be more forgiving than something like trying to recreate the Mona Lisa. Plus, it's easy to find a high quality version of this painting online that I can use as a reference photo. 30,000 pixels. That should be enough, right? So I've gathered all my buttons. I've got my board, primed it ready to paint myself a background, and now I just need to work out how I'm going to attach these. Meet Ali Spagnola. Her channel is full of over-the-top, never been done before DIY projects like making a fully velvet car, a life-size rug of her dog, and a mood ring toilet seat. So the reason I need your help is I don't want to go to all this effort and then pick up my project and have all the buttons fall off.
No.
And I thought if anyone would know what kind of thing would work for this, who's done similar, bizarre, overly complicated little things made into big things, that would be you. So, is hot glue the best option here?
First of all, hot glue makes my dreams come true, so that's what I would initially think too. I don't think it's bad to go the hot glue route.
Like if a couple fall off in 10 years, I can re-glue them. It's just like, how long are we talking with hot glue? I'm also not that familiar with hot glue. So like, I know how it works and everything, but like, I don't actively do stuff like this. Most of my stuff is pencils or markers or sometimes venturing into paints. So I'm both really excited about this, but also like, I get very messy when I do stuff. I had paint on me and on all my clothes before I even put a single drop of paint on the actual painting. So hot glue gun is either gonna be really good or a really bad idea. I'm not sure which.
I think you're gonna love it.
Is all hot glue the same?
I've been using the cheapest hot glue gun on Amazon for my entire career. So you can get away with it, but they do have ones that are thicker, industrial, rechargeable, so you don't have to be plugged in.
Okay, I didn't even think of the battery aspect. That's a good point. But that's good to know, they're all kind of the same. Even paintbrushes, there's like 50 different paintbrushes and I still can't figure out what's the right one. So it's good to know hot glue, it's just hot glue.
I know, I get overwhelmed by materials and tools, and then I'm like, I'll just use the same craft scissors that I've used since I was a child, and we still get the art done, you know? So obsessing about tools, I think, it'll just get in the way.
So I did buy a hot glue gun a while ago on Amazon, but I don't think this is gonna work. They want you to do hot glue gunning from your car? Doesn't really feel like a safe way to craft. So I went to Bunnings to find myself a better hot glue gun. A much better hot glue gun. Lock and load. It's kind of strange that at my age that I haven't actually really used a hot glue gun. How do I know when it's ready? It just says turn it on and start. Oh, this is gonna be messy, isn't it? Oh no, ow. It went through the holes in the button and got me. It's pretty much guaranteed that if I glue the button, that I'm gonna end up burning my fingers. I think going on the board definitely is the safer option. You know what is a positive though? Because the glue does seep into the holes, I feel like that's gonna more likely keep them in place. I guess we just go for it. I've been able to make a good start, and this whole process is going so much faster than I thought it would. The hot glue gun was a great idea. Mostly. I've already burnt myself at least 8 times because the hot glue instantly seeps through the holes in each button. So I'm starting to think I might need to find some gloves or some tweezers or something else so that I don't get even more hurt. Okay, lesson learned the hard way. It's time to find a better solution. I've bought some heat-resistant gloves and I'm trying to work with tweezers. Both or even just one of these options should be much safer. I just hope that I can still grip the buttons easily enough so that I can enjoy this and get it done at a good pace. I expected this to take a long time, but I feel like I've made a good start and I am going faster than I expected. This doesn't really look like the Starry Night yet, but I can see where this is going. I know I've jumped ahead a little bit here because this picture that I'm using as a base and all of these buttons being specifically perfectly colored for this picture didn't all happen by chance. I spent almost as much time planning for this project as I'm now spending working on it. So let me take you back. Buttons. My theory is that this whole project will be much easier if I think of it as a giant pixel art painting. One button is one pixel. So first I found a huge copy of Starry Night on Wikipedia to use as my reference. And I'm using Photoshop to work out how big I can make each pixel before I start to lose too much detail. More pixels means I need a much bigger canvas and a lot more buttons. So I'm trying to balance the scale of the project that I want to make against the scale of a project that's not totally impossible. So I wonder, what is the biggest canvas that I can buy? Instead of using the canvas, I found some wood from Bunnings. It's big, right? It's like this big. It can fit, if you stretch your arms out wide, that's as big as it is. So I made some more adjustments to my pixels in Photoshop and based my figures on an average button of about 17 millimeters wide. I measured my button with a giant ruler. Exactly. 17 millimeters wide. I need to invest in a smaller ruler. I think I calculated if I spent 8 seconds per button, it would still take me like 100 hours or something stupid, right?
Sometimes you don't want to use math.
Sometimes the math just tells you this is a really dumb idea. Now, any picture like this has probably 2 million different colors in it, and I don't really want to have to find 2 million different colors of buttons. So I have reduced the amount of total colors in this picture to be a little bit more achievable. I've dropped it to about 50 colors. This still seems to allow a lot of detail, but it is going to make it so much easier for me at the next part to figure out what color buttons that I need and roughly how many I need of each color. This is where it gets a little bit nerdy. I created a Python code to count how many instances of each color there was. I intended for it to count every button I would need, being every pixel in the image, but I forgot to downsize my image, so each of my pixels was actually about 200 real pixels. So according to my math, I need about 4.8 million buttons. I don't have that many buttons. So I've resized my image so that each button or every pixel is actually a pixel. And trying this again, it worked this time. Have a look at this. Isn't this cool? This is giving me a full list of every color I need for this picture and the exact quantity that I need so that I can just buy the right buttons to make this look like the Starry Night. So I've got 8,000 buttons and it's going to be very interesting because they are all different sizes. So I actually went and did a bunch of stuff on the computer to break up the picture into like pixel art. The catch for me is going to be that you can't do pixel art when they're all different sizes.
Pixels are all the same size. That's the point of pixels.
So it's going to be a fun challenge, but I also feel like just the nature of buttons and the way that like they're going to look cool even if the picture's really not right. So I do feel like there's a lot of flexibility for me with this of it actually doesn't have to be perfect because it's going to look really cool either way, but hopefully it will look like the Starry Night when it's done. And I've got some that are bigger, some that are smaller. So like working off pixels is not actually going to be the way to do it. That just kind of helps me calculate how many buttons I need because I don't want to run out halfway. I think I need more buttons. But I've also decided to do multi-layer because then I can really like break the barrier of how they fit beside each other and kind of fill gaps on multiple layers. And hopefully then even create a sense of 3D building up certain areas. And I don't really know how this is all gonna work, but it's like, oh, well, we'll just have a go.
I love that sentence. I feel like I've said it a lot too.
I've actually also done an actual underpainting. I thought about it, and for one, an underpainting gives me a guide. And I also thought then if you've got gaps between the buttons, you're not gonna have white, you'll have hopefully a much closer color. The first step was do a big, ugly Starry Night out of paint. I took my list of colors to Bunnings and I've chosen 4 colors that I think I can mix to make most of the colors that I need. I'm going to be using these paints to create an underpainting. So it'll just be the basic colors that will help me to know where I'm gonna put the buttons and hopefully stop the white showing through at the same time.
Yeah, when I made my disco skeleton, I painted the whole thing silver before putting on the 500,000 disco tiles because of that same reason, and it did make a big difference.
There's my underpainting.
Yeah, that's not crappy. What the heck?
It is when you put it to scale and put it next to the real one, but that's fine because it's an underpainting. It's not supposed to be perfect. My main thing was making sure everything's in the right place because that now becomes my guide. It's like if I can get that right, the color doesn't really matter that much. Would you like to see this when I'm done? Can I call you back?
Yes, absolutely. Are you kidding me? I don't have to wait till it's on your channel?
Buttons are something that always catch my attention. In fact, I'm a little surprised that I don't already have some kind of excessively big button collection. It totally feels like something I would collect. And maybe this is the start of me diving into a rabbit hole. So these are a few of the favorites that I've collected. These ones I just think are cool. They've got a bit of a almost, is it Art Deco? Great Gatsby kind of vibe. I had to include this one because my son adores zebras. I call them zebras, but he calls them zebras because he watches too much YouTube from America. This one's definitely going on the picture. Made in Australia. Ironically, I think the actual button is probably made in China. My little paw print from Moscow and this really cool little collection of buttons that look like paintings, including the Starry Night. Or maybe this will be enough and this one project will capture my love for buttons and I will never need to collect them. I'll probably still collect them. How many buttons do you think you own?
Have to be more than 10,000.
More than 10,000. Is that including what you're selling or your personal collection?
Oh, no. That's not including the stock at home.
That's,
So,
yeah.
there's a lot more. There's a lot more at home, believe me.
Amazing. You can't stop at one though.
No.
You're gonna
sometimes you
not be able to
just
stop.
want that one button.
That one perfect button. There is so much variety in buttons, so much creativity in the design of something so simple. So many different shapes, sizes, colors, and stories to go along with them. And it goes so much deeper than I ever expected. Buttons were created to be ornamental long before they were practical. They date back as far as 2800 BCE, where they were made from seashells and became a status symbol during the Middle Ages. Buttons can feel like a tiny piece of history, each being designed in a different era, different culture, and for a different purpose. So I can see why they are a popular item to collect. In America, there is a National Button Society that was founded in 1938 and now has several thousand members from countries all over the world. They host an annual button convention where collectors trade, showcase, and admire buttons. These were never designed just to be practical, and I love that something as simple as a button is still inspiring people today and showcases just how much variety there is in human creativity. And I love that this piece of art is going to be filled with all this variety. Even though I'm working with limited colors and I've only collected these from a few places, I hope that this will become a piece of art that rewards you more the closer you look. As I continue working on this, there is one thing that has been happening the entire time and I'm not exactly sure how to solve it. And that's the hot glue making this stringy mess. I did a lot of research online and found that stringiness is often due to using the wrong glue gun, the wrong glue, or not making it hot enough. I've been using my hottest setting and I'm pretty sure that this is a good hot glue gun. Though I have noticed the glue sticks that I'm using from Stanley are more opaque than the glue sticks that came with the glue gun. I tried to swap it over for a bit and it maybe helped with the stringiness, but I'm not convinced. Other guides online suggested different techniques of like twisting and pulling when you place the glue, but I'm trying to do this quickly, so I'm not really sure that this is gonna work for me. I did find, however, that this glue gun has an interchangeable injector, so I've swapped it over to this smaller size and this does seem to have helped a little bit. I think this is just a problem that I'm gonna need to work through and I'll try to find a way to clean it all up at the end. I'm really happy now with how this is all coming together. It's been a fun project. It actually reminds me of diamond painting, except with the constant risk of serious burns. But I am starting to worry about how quickly my button pile is disappearing. With all the calculations that I did, I was confident that I had more than enough buttons for 2 full layers of art. But somehow I'm running out of specific colors that I should have. Did we actually count how many buttons arrived? Are there any that haven't arrived yet? I definitely bought more medium blues than this. How did I get that wrong? Do you think they've gone missing? Or like, did I just really mess this up? So it seems that some of the buttons that I bought never arrived. I don't know exactly how many because I completely forgot to count them before I mixed them all up. But even with the missing buttons, it still seems that I have way underestimated what I need for this project. I still don't think that I would have had enough. I think I know what's happened. I did all my measurements off a 17mm button. But in reality, most of these buttons are really small, so I probably needed to double my totals. It's a good thing at least that I ordered what I thought was enough for 2 layers because I have been able to make it work on just 1 layer in most areas. I've tried to be more creative in mixing up the buttons in the black areas because I won't have enough black otherwise. But this kind of works because the image has a lot of green and a lot of brown through this area anyway. I've also used some of these really bright greens and some of the gray buttons in the bottom layer where the moon goes because most of these will end up covered up with more buttons as soon as I build up some layers. But some of these blue areas don't have enough buttons even for the first layer, and I'm frustrated that I misjudged this by so much because I can't even finish these sections off with what I have right now. So in summary, I need more buttons. The new buttons have arrived, so hopefully now I have everything I need to finish this button mural with all the layering and all the extra details that I'm wanting to make. This has been so fun to create, even with the challenges along the way. I've spent quite a few hours on it at this point, but I'm still enjoying sitting down and just gluing each button one by one. It's kind of the perfect activity for me because it's repetitive, but it's not entirely mindless. Every time I pick up a button, I have a bunch of creative decisions to make. Will this button fit? What's the best size? Should I use the same color or should I start blending into something different? Have I left enough space for the next buttons? Am I staying true to my reference picture? And whether it's all these decisions or just the continual risk of burning myself if I don't pay attention, I've found myself inspired and motivated to just keep going and see this project through to the end. I'm really excited to see how this looks what I've done, and I'm planning to hang this one proudly in my house as one of my favorite things I've ever made. You've done a lot of wonderful and creative and slightly crazy things on your channel. Is there one favorite that stands out to you?
Man, I always say it's the next one I'm working on because I'm super psyched about it and it's not out yet and I'm so excited to show people. So the next one, that's usually my answer. Do you want to see a preview?
Of course.
Okay, I made a Christmas tree floating out of light. They're pendulums. It's LEDs on very specific lengths of a pendulum, but they swing.
That's very cool.
And they swing in a very specific pattern called a pendulum wave where they make an S and then kind of go chaotic and then come back to a straight line. Not just in the photo, but in person, it's really crazy.
That would be really, really cool to see. I like what you're saying though, of your next project being your favorite, because I feel like that's the way I work as well. I feel fake every time I write in the script, this is my favorite project ever, but it's like true every time. Whatever you're working on, you're the most excited about. You've challenged yourself a little bit more than the last one, and every time it's like, wow, that's the new best thing I've ever made. And so it's entirely accurate, but it's just funny because it becomes a cliche.
I love that, and that's why you don't burn out and keep making. Well, I did want to mention, I don't know if you saw, but I've done a Starry Night painting.
Really?
I had to create a painting using only water blasters, squirt guns, and so I picked Starry Night. So same brain.
I'm very close to being finished with this. I did have to get creative with mixing up these colors to avoid running out of my lighter blues and my yellows again. And I did go shopping one more time to get some more final buttons. I would have liked to add more layers in some of these areas, and realistically, I probably could double the amount of buttons and keep going, but it doesn't really need more buttons. Somehow I've gone through the entire supply of hot glue, so this feels like a natural point to finish up. How do you get rid of the extra stringy bits of hot glue when you're done on a project? Is that something you come across?
You know, I've thought about collecting it. Like if I had a big ball of it, of the history of all of my hot glue string. No way! Oh, that's awesome. I'm so glad you did it.
That was just what I pulled off of this one thing.
That's incredible.
That was what I was able to pull off, but then there's always little bits that are already stuck that you can't like get off with your fingers, especially when you're dealing with buttons that have holes in the middle that it just seeps straight through. So I looked online and I found a suggestion to use a hairdryer to melt the hot glue strings and they kind of disappear into the project. Have you ever tried that?
No, I haven't. Interesting. I've also heard of using an iron to get it out of carpet. You put wax paper down and iron it and that'll heat it up and bring it off. I make a lot of mistakes.
Probably should have done a test run before I glued down 8,000 buttons. So I was kind of hoping they'd just like melt away, but that's not what's happening. Do I need more heat? Where's my heat gun? Okay, this is kind of working. Do you want to see it?
Yes, please. Oh, that's epic. How cool. The depth and texture is awesome.
So like this, I did kind of build up a little bit and then realized very quickly how many buttons are just wasted under that, but that's okay.
Art is never a waste.
Some of these ones I've sort of built up as well and tried to sort of use the fact that there's a variety of tones to my advantage and trying to blend so that it sort of blends from the yellow out.
I love that. The moments where the warmer tones mix with the blue and then when you back up, it makes sense. But up close, it's like, what's that yellow doing next to a turquoise?
Yeah, that's right. So there's actually quite a bit of green hidden in some of these, which you wouldn't think of green when you see the picture. These bits were the hardest to define. The difference in color in the two big swirls is not that different to what's around it. It's the movement of the brush that really highlights the difference. And so I tried to embrace some of the different colors and add some more blues, but then I've also built up a few more layers on the edge to try and visually separate it. And then the bottom's a bit chaotic in general because the bottom has a lot happening in the picture.
I can see it. Those are houses for sure with the lights on. That's awesome. It turned out great.
Thank you so much for joining me on this project, and it was fun to show you.
Heck yeah, thank you for sharing with me. How freaking cool.
This is the biggest artwork I have ever created. It has over 8,000 buttons. In fact, after the extra purchases, it's probably more like over 10,000 buttons. It weighs a lot with over 1 kilo of hot glue alone. And I love it.